All right. Well, welcome to our May lunch bunch. So we have, 1 week left in the session, and it's there is still a ton of work to do. None of our bills so far have gotten to the governor's desk yet, which is always an interesting place to be when there's so much, so little left to do. So today we are going to go through those bills and let you know where things are at. We have a big update on ozone, some updates on the HVAC bill for public schools, and then the two-way AC has an update as well. And then what are the last, things that you can do to help get these bills over the finish line? And then announcements at the end. So we'll just dive in here. Oops, actually, I'm gonna see if I can go back. So the big news that I know some of our members have seen in the news is that there have been some significant changes to the ozone bill. So I think we might have mentioned at Lobby Day that there are a ton, and on these calls in the past, that there have that oil and gas has put up quite a fight on the three bills that we've been supporting, the three ozone package bills. And in response, they have run, these $1 million ad campaigns, both on TV and on social media and like all these places. And of course, have a ton of lobbying power. And then in addition, they introduced 21 ballot initiatives that would be on November's ballot that would basically erase all of the good work that we have done in the last, 10 or 20 years, really in the most recent decade, to around climate. They threatened EV expansion. They threatened all the air pollution work that we've done. And, it was a strategy for them to have some negotiating power. So for the last few weeks, the governor has been in communication with some of our allies who, drafted the policy on these bills and have really been the lead organizations, and with the oil and gas industry, and trying to kind of come to a deal and make, a truce essentially between these two entities. And our partners worked very, very hard to get come to an agreement with the governor's office and oil and gas. And so basically what it means is we are scrapping the three bills that were originally introduced. All of the ballot initiatives are getting pulled down. So all of the oil and gas bill initiatives, as well as there were some pro-environment initiatives as well. So those are also going to get pulled down. So there won't be any sort of climate focused initiatives this year if this all goes through. And in its place are two new pieces of legislation that are actually pretty good. It's not everything that we asked for, and it's a lot of stuff we didn't ask for. It's kind of a shift from what we were originally proposing. So we're going to go through those two new bills and tell you a little bit more about them. They are highly complicated bills, and so we're going to give you kind of the Cliff's Notes versions. So we don't have to bore you with all the ins and outs. And also, Jen and I are, not oil and gas policy experts. So let's kick this off. So the first bill, and then we'll pause for questions because there might be some. So the first bill is called ozone mitigation measures. It's starting in the Senate. It was just introduced, I heard, very late last night. And it's going to do a few things. So it will improve oil and gas permitting process with a more robust pollution impact review. And there will be some increased pollution control measures within the permitting process to kind of get at some of that some of that cumulative impact, but it's certainly not going to go as far as the last bill. It's going to grant more authority to state regulators to enforce penalties. So to get at that enforcement piece, avoid repeat violations of air quality laws. We have gotten a commitment from the governor's team that they're going to step this up, and this bill will help give them more authority to do that. This next piece was actually in one of the bills, and that's going to codify that executive order from Governor Polis last year that he proposed, and will codify the NOx reduction targets from production and pre-production oil and gas operations, with the goal of reducing those emissions by 50% by 2030. And it will provide additional protections for disproportionately impacted communities. There's going to be new funding for plugging oil wells that have been abandoned or are partially abandoned, that are just like leaking methane, and nobody is doing anything about it. And that money is coming from oil and gas. That's not coming from tax dollars. So this is a really good piece for those communities that are more heavily impacted by oil and gas. Are there any questions on that bill?
That sounds kind of like, I mean, it sounds like it includes a lot of the stuff that in the other bills. It's just fewer teeth and less expansive maybe, or?
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't go after that permitting, the sort of minor source permitting, which we were trying to do. We were trying to like make sure that, that there was like a wider group of, like the cumulative impact of multiple wells on one site, like that part is not included.
Right.
And I think it's more narrowed to disproportionately impacted communities as well. So it isn't like expansive across the state, is my understanding. But yeah, so we talked with our partners, and especially those folks who work in disproportionately impacted communities or live in them. And I think one of our colleagues said, he kind of wrote down this list of things that he wanted to get out of these negotiations. And there were 22 things, and he got 20 of them. So like he feels very good about this, which makes us feel good about it. It's not everything, I mean, I don't want to pretend that we're really happy with the governor. But I think, we recognize the situation with oil and gas having so much power and the governor not being super on board with this in the first place. And this is a good outcome for us.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
So the second bill is oil and gas production. Oh my gosh, I'm like, my thing is, what is the word? I can't see it. Fee, thank you so much, Jen. And this is okay. So this one is going to create a new production fee on oil and gas production, and it will be tied to commodity prices. So it's going to fluctuate a little bit every year. But it will ensure that oil and gas operators are paying for the remediation of the harms that they're causing to the environment. The fee money is going to help go towards statewide transit, as well as the remediation pieces. So the estimate for the production fee will be about 140 million annually towards these, and we'll talk about like the breakdown of that. So 80% of the funds are going to go to local transit agencies across the state. And then 20% will go to parks and wildlife for land conservation that's impacted by oil and gas activities. So this is actually pretty huge for, getting cars off the road and putting people on buses and trains, as opposed to, So we're kind of using oil and gas funds to pay for like this other sector that also creates a lot of ozone pollution. So it's not getting as much at the oil and gas pollution, but it will help in other areas to bring down our pollution from transportation. So this is a pretty big win for transit and public transportation. Questions on this?
What do you think about, I understand Polis is, he was really big on getting statewide trains and stuff, and it sounded like they weren't going to give him anything toward that. I'm not explaining it well. But this sort of sounds like that might help. What was he wanting to do? North to south border, trains from the north of Colorado to the south or something, or?
Yeah, Jen, do you know much about, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not familiar with how he was hoping to get that done. Jen, do you have any
Yeah, I
insight?
don't know very much about that process either. I do
Okay.
know, I have heard of the proposal to get trains so that we get more cars off the road, and particularly Fort Collins to Pueblo kind of
Okay.
route. But I have not heard as much about that process. So I
Okay.
don't know what the governor was pushing for specifically for that.
Okay. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, my understanding though is that this will go to this will go to municipalities that are looking to beef up their transit agencies, not like a huge statewide,
Okay.
statewide train or transit system.
I forgot you're doing it. No. You sure? Yeah. Okay, I'll talk to you in a minute.
So
Sorry.
those are the pieces, no problem. So those are the two bills. They are, because we have such a short period of time, they're gonna really have to fly through. It's in Finance Committee tomorrow. I just heard that on a call I was on earlier today. So it's been introduced, it's been assigned to Finance, they're in committee tomorrow. And then really it's like every day they're probably gonna have to be in the next step in order for this to get moving. So we'll talk at the end about how you can help, but it's really trying to make sure that legislators know that we are supporting this, that there is a lot of urgency to making sure this happens, because if it doesn't happen, that deal, with oil and gas is kind of thrown up in the air, and so we don't want to have to revisit that that situation. So it's really important that this gets through. Okay, so just a quick update from my end on the HVAC improvements bill. So this has actually gone all the way through the House, and we're excited about that. And it's been introduced in the Senate and is actually being heard in appropriation. Oh, I'm sorry, in Business and Labor tomorrow. And the chair of that committee is actually one of the sponsors of the bill. So we're feeling pretty good about its chances getting through the committee. The last we heard, the governor is not crazy about this bill. And so we are a little bit concerned about its getting through the Senate. So there's been a few amendments that will be proposed tomorrow to sort of get at some of his concerns, which are more mostly around rural school districts having access to the right workforce. And so that will be, so we're hoping that will be enough to appease both the governor and the folks that have some concerns about this bill. But that will be, also on the list of things that we hope folks will help us with. I know you've already taken action, Meg, so thank you for that. And any questions on that one? That's really just a short update on that.
I thought this bill had really good addressed those rural contractor complaints really well. did it not good enough, or that's not what Polis was thinking, or?
I mean, we're not 100% sure why he doesn't like the bill, or why he's even stepping into the argument. I mean, our position has remained that, like, it's a way to make you competitive for the grant that the federal government
Huh?
is asking for you to have certified contractors. And as long as you're making an effort, if you can't get it done that way, then you can't get it done that way. And like, our understanding is that's okay. So I think what they're trying to assuage is like, what happens if we can't get rural contractors? Then what? If we've gotten this grant and we can't find the workforce. And of course, our argument, and from the folks that do this work, they'll go anywhere in the state to do it, but it's just kind of strange that we can't, that the Rural Schools Association is still, as last I heard anyway, not supporting this bill. And, that's what I think Polis is sort of echoing. I don't know. It's kind of a mystery, honestly. I think
Okay.
it feels easy, but they don't see it that way. And so, we're just hoping that we have the leadership support in the Senate, and that
Okay.
they will make sure this gets through, and it's a win-win, and don't punish everybody for like the sake of a few. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
sure. All right, Jen, hand it over to you.
Okay. HB 1352 has not fared very well. Unfortunately, it had a sort of a big price tag because of the incentives that were being offered for heat pumps. And I think that's probably been the primary concern of folks. So it's essentially, for this session, it's being turned into a study bill, which is a common tactic to water a bill down for this session, but to prepare for action for the next. So a study will be conducted with the caveat that the study should be expedited and will provide legislative recommendations for the next session. And so by expedited, they, I believe, are hoping to have an update as soon as this next January and March. And then that information can be used during next year's legislative session to create a bill that will hopefully achieve the same goals as we were looking to achieve with this bill, namely to get more heat pumps into more houses and help make the built environment more efficient. That was the update I heard from folks last week. And unfortunately, it hasn't moved since I've heard that last update. So I'm not sure. It's still stuck in House, I believe appropriations is where it is. And they would need to have, a lot of that financial questions settled for appropes. And I'm not sure if they're not settled yet or if there's still some other concerns, but it hasn't been scheduled yet in appropriations. So this one is struggling, unfortunately, but hopefully it'll come back next year stronger and ready to go. And that's pretty typical. A lot of the times legislation takes 2, 3, 4 tries to get through. It's shaped along the way to make it palatable to more people and maybe cut costs and that sort of thing. So
Okay.
that's where we are with this one.
So it's not necessarily a graveyard.
No, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean this idea is dead for forever. It just means we're still working on it.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen, did you want me to take this piece, or?
Sure.
Okay. So with the remaining time that we have, we're asking folks to, call and email your legislator, both your senators and senator and House rep, I should say legislators, and leadership to urge their support on these 4 bills. So, if you have a few minutes, you're most likely going to either talk to an aide or leave a message. And emails and calls, like calls sometimes are more effective because they, take longer for people. Plus they get just like so many emails, it's really hard for them to sift through. And so calls can stand out a little bit more. I put the president of the Senate's phone number on here. Of course, you can go to the Ledge website and find that, and the speaker's phone number on here. They are kind of in charge of whether bills make it. I mean, they can't control everything, but they can certainly stop things if they don't want them to get through. So for example, on the HVAC bill, the Senate president is sort of in charge of like whether that gets through, and we're not 100% sure where he's at on this bill. And then for the other 3, I think, well, actually, McCluskey is the sponsor of McCluskey and Fenberg are the co-prime sponsors of the transit fee bill. So they don't actually need calls on those 2, but or on that one, but the other 3 would be great to have a conversation with them, or just let them know you're supporting. So it's really just, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm just asking that the Senate president, prioritize these 3 bills. And then the same with the speaker. And then also calling your Senate and House rep would be fantastic. And I just put the link in here for how to find your legislator. But of course, Meg, I know you know who yours are. And Senator Cutter is also on. Oh goodness, they're so new. I don't know all of the sponsors by heart quite yet, but I know she's supporting both of the ozone bills. And so she probably is fine actually on all of the, but maybe the
So don't
maybe
call her.
your
or-
rep. Yeah, I would say for you, Meg, I would just call your rep, and then
Okay.
the House leadership and the Senate leadership.
So
And-
don't tell Fenberg and McCluskey's offices that we support the fee bill because they're co-sponsors.
Yeah, I mean, you
Or
could
would-
say thank you for that.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank yous are always appreciated and they don't get very many of them. So
I bet not.
it's a great thing to do.
So, Cutter would probably appreciate hearing that we support this and thank you for being in favor of it, kind of thing as
Yeah.
well. So you just call and you say, and you talk to their aide or whatever, and you say, I want to let Senator Cutter know that I support SB 24-229 and list the 4 bills there.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. And
I
just
can
let
do
them
that.
know you're a constituent, and sometimes they ask for your address just to confirm, but often
Okay.
they don't. Just probably depends on how busy they are at the moment, but they
Okay,
do count those calls and they do pay attention
cool.
to how many calls they're getting. So thank you for doing that, Meg. I really appreciate that.
Oh gosh, yeah, easy peasy. Thank you
And
for
then-
telling me who to call and the bill numbers and stuff. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can also follow this up with an email to if that's helpful. So and then, invite your friends or family to take action as well. That's, really, I think the most important thing we can do. Keep an eye on your inbox. We may send another action alert or 2 before the end of session. Just if these things need some additional help getting over the finish line. All right. And then the last thing we had, oh my gosh, it's 12:59. Look at that timing. We are taking a break for the summer on these meetings. We'll still be doing plenty of work and actions throughout the months, but because kids are out of school or folks are on vacation, we typically have a drop off in participation. So we figured let's just we'll just put these meetings on hold, and we'll pick it back up in September. And we may also change the day of the week and the time on these. We're going to send out a survey probably towards the end of summer to just see if like there's a time that might work for folks as schedule shift and all
Do you
that
have a
stuff.
preference, Meg, on days of the week or?
Wednesday lunch is awesome for me, but I've got some flexibility. And I love that y'all record these, so if I happen to be babysitting and can't get to the computer because of the toddler, then I can catch it on reruns.
Yep, we have several folks in that camp chasing toddlers, so they watch it later at nap time or something.
My daughter calls him the tiny terrorist, and he just is. I mean, you can't get anything done except stay in his orbit,
Yep. I think we're all pretty familiar with that.
Yeah, it's a good thing they're so cute.
Yep, I say that a lot.
That's why they are. That's why they're made so cute. Yeah.
Yep.
Evolution is like,
Yeah,
oh, we got to protect these
would have
guys.
died out a long time ago. Yeah, yeah, true story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Let me know or Jen know if you have any questions in the meantime. And
I will.
yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just so grateful that you guys can guide us through this stuff, because I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you too. Thanks for all
Okay,
your
and it turns out that a couple of y'all's emails went to my junk folder this month. Why? I've been getting them in my inbox all this time, and so I'll be better about checking my junk folder every day.
You know what might help is if you put the email address that they come from, our general box, that mamas@mountainmamas.org. If you put that in, like in your email list or in a sometimes email will have a safe list. Sometimes there's little
Okay.
tricks like that you could do that will ensure that you get them.
Okay. It does ask, when I say not junk, it says, do you never want this to go to your junk folder? And
Oh, perfect.
I
Yeah.
would have thought I had done that, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Meg.
Okay, we'll talk to you all later.
All right,
Okay.
take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.